Hi, welcome to my show, Olio. My name is Susan Rushton, and before I go any further, I want to explain what Olio means. It's short for a Spanish-Portuguese dish called olla podrida, which essentially everything in the world in it. Pork in all its iterations, pig's feet, pig's brains probably, bacon, sausage, plus chicken, chickpeas, cabbage, carrots, beans, and onions and garlic, of course. So essentially everything in the world. And so that's why I call my show Olio, because I get to pick anything in the world to talk about. So today my guest is a wonderful man, Don Ales, CEO of Gold Country Fairgrounds. And if you want to talk to him or meet him or to go see what he's involved with, just email him at ceo@goldcountryfair.com. And you can phone him 530-330-4312. And the address, by the way, is 1273 High Street in Auburn. So, Don, thank you for joining me. We've had a wonderful conversation before we started taping, and I'm thrilled to have you on my show. Why are you CEO of the Auburn Fairgrounds?
That's a good question because I didn't anticipate it.
Oh, really?
No, I did not expect it. As a matter of fact, a good friend of mine said, "Why are you not considering the job?" When Lori Johnson, who was a CEO prior to me, retired, and I said, "I know, I never thought about it." So I decided to finally think about it, and I threw my hat in the ring. And I love the fairgrounds. I've always loved the fairgrounds, so I had a passion for it. That was the first step. And the other reason was I helped start the nonprofit for the fairgrounds. At the time, we didn't have one, and I was one of the founders of the Gold Country Fair Heritage Foundation.
Yes.
So that's how I got the start and the kind of the nod to look at the CEO at the Gold Country Fairgrounds.
Now, this means that you were already working part of the fairgrounds.
I was as a subcontractor, so it was odd. I was about ready to retire. I was thinking about that, and I had done a lot of volunteer work, and I had just finished the project on the front of the fairgrounds through Leadership Auburn. So I got to know the people, the directors, and anyway, it just got in my blood. And at that point, it's like I knew I was going to be there, so I might as well get paid if I'm going to be there.
Well, sure.
So, but kiddingly, I just loved it, and it was 38.6 acres, and I had the opportunity to walk around and look at the things that we could change. And I've always considered it the center of our community, so it just all made sense for me at a time in my life when I was ready for change.
What do you mean it's the center of our community?
Well, if you think about Auburn, we're a small community, but a wonderful town. We're growing. Every service organization does some type of fundraising at our fairgrounds. Mm-hmm. We also have many entities, the City of Auburn, Placer County Board of Supervisors, the state of California, so political people. Also dealing with individuals who are looking at possibly renting long-term facilities at our place, which we have Smart Start. We also have Hugs and Kisses, we have Fast Fridays, so we have people who are renting on a regular basis. So all of these people make up our community, and we're also the only facility that has multiple buildings that can be rented to accommodate crowds over 500.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do something and you want to celebrate something in our community, really the only place is the Gold Country Fairgrounds.
Yeah.
It makes us the center of the community.
Yeah.
I like to say we're the fabric. And if we get stretched too far, then we're not doing our job, but our job is to keep everybody together.
Our job is to keep everybody together. That's lovely. And I'm seeing theme of the park of Gold Country Fairgrounds is a facility for our communities to celebrate the agriculture, history, and culture of our district. And that's everything.
It is.
It's like Olio.
Olio.
It's lovely. And I want to leap someplace else. Mm-hmm. You mentioned that you saw some ways to improve the fairgrounds, the buildings and stuff. I went to the Oktoberfest.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The Oktoberfest a couple of months ago. and that was a Rotarian thing, and which was in the Placer Building, and I love the Placer Building because it's so big. I don't think I've ever been to it when it wasn't full at any event, and yet, and I love the Placer Building, yet the ceiling had just dismayed me. For years it had dismayed me. Oh my God, this place is better than that. But suddenly I went to the Oktoberfest and the ceiling had changed. It's beautiful. And so tell me what happened.
So what happened, just like you, I would go there and I always looked up and I go, oh, we got leaky ceiling, it doesn't look right, and here all these people are having a good time underneath a terrible canopy, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
So I started looking at ways to raise money. The state only funds us at a very small level, $42,000 a year to be exact, and we have to figure out ways to improve what's been, for a long time, maintenance has been deferred. And so that's a building, just like you said, it's our workhorse. Everybody does stuff there. We have crab feeds, we have Oktoberfest, we have cat shows, we have antique bottle shows, and we could go on. We have tons of events there, but it always looked bad. And so what we did
But
is,
people went there anyway.
they did, because again, it goes back to the community. We all care about each other. But I was offended because as a person who's lived here 31 years, I knew we could do better. So I started seeking ways to get money. So the first thing we did was we had renderings made of the building. It's actually 8 stages. What you've seen is just the first 2 stages. And I started looking for money. And I applied for a program through
Please, go back.
Sure.
This is 8 stages. I've seen only 2 stages.
You've seen 3 actually.
What is
So
in 8?
you have the first 3 you saw, which is a brand new roof, brand new cooling system, brand new, we painted the ceiling that black to give it that industrial look. And then we just added, which you probably didn't see, there's a brand new sound system, which was stage 4.
Oh, good.
So they weren't using that, but we've got 16 speakers in there. We can control it in different zones, and the reason that was important is when you're at an event and people would go up there and try to talk, nobody heard them.
Right.
Well, now you can do that, and it's also wireless, so you can walk right up to me and talk to me individually, or you can send it out to the rest of the audience. So that was exciting.
The Placer Building is getting into the 21st century.
It is getting into the 21st century.
How wonderful.
Yes, so the stages that I'm excited about that haven't happened yet is we're going to do an imperfect smooth on the outside, so we'll get rid of that beat up stucco and make it a nice looking building. We're also going to bring the facade out, so we'll have some timber look, extend the roof line so it looks more like a modern building to go in with that agricultural look that we're trying to create. And then there'll be spaces underneath there for vendors, and then there'll be mural spaces so we can put paintings in those on the front walls, because they're, believe it or not, they're 4 foot by 8 foot. So we already have the perfect mural, and the idea is to replace those for different events, maybe put some permanent, we're not sure, but that's part of the vision. And then on the other side where the patio area is, we're going to create a brand new patio there, and we're going to have a roll-up glass door on the side, so you can either roll it up and walk out onto the patio, or you can keep it closed if it's raining and look through it. And then we're finally going to open up the back side with windows. So that's the next stage. So it's a lot of money, and I'll give you that number because that's where people can help, obviously. But and then we're also doing a culinary kitchen. We've started work on that, so that we'll upgrade that kitchen. And the idea is to get the kids who are right around the corner at Placer, because their building's not ready yet. They can come and learn how to cook different dishes. They can help serve groups as small as 200 or as big as 500. Which I think is great for their education. And then we also have the ability to lend that kitchen out for Salvation Army when they're cooking for the community and on Thanksgiving. So a lot of these things where we can tie in that education component with the youth as well. So that's the culinary side of it. And then of course, bathrooms have to be clean because nobody wants to go into a bad bathroom. So we're going to add some fixtures and clean up the bathroom as well, and then finish out that ceiling too. So all of that will come to a grand total of about 1.8 million, of which we've raised about 500,000.
Okay.
But that's and that changes obviously because sometimes we get volunteer help, sometimes prices change, and as lumber gets more expensive, you have to deal with that too. But as of when we did our drawings, that's what it looks like. And we saw that building as the benchmark to show the community we're back.
I guess.
So that's been the plan. It just takes a long time because we're state entity and
Yeah.
permits and things don't move as fast as I would like.
And
so.
you write grants, and writing
Yes,
grants is a
correct.
tough thing.
It is a tough
There
thing.
are other organizations
Right.
pushing,
Right.
doing the same thing.
And I was excited. We had 78 fairgrounds. This was a fairground specific grant, and 78 fairgrounds submitted, and only 8 got accepted. So I was really pleased. We were one of
Wow.
them. So it was a nice achievement. And it's funny because when we were writing it or spending the time, I thought to myself, if I cross every T, dot every I, make sure my punctuation is correct, they got to believe me. And as it turned out, 20% of them were thrown out because they just didn't do the paperwork. So it was true that if state contracting, state grants, if you don't make sure you do what they ask, then you end up with a problem.
Writing carefully
Yes.
is important.
It is.
I'm not the only one who says this.
So that's how we started.
I'm thrilled. I am, and are you using any other? Well, you have your own blog on the website.
We do.
And you're going. Of course, you're letting people know there.
Right.
Where else besides here are you letting people know?
So if you go to CEO at goldcountryfair.com and you make sure that you tell us what you're looking for, you can either give information there, you can give questions there. If you want to just make a donation, you can do it to there, or you can call me at 530-330-4312, and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Great. But so only on the only other place is on the website.
Right now. And I say right now because one of the mistakes I make is I don't really go out and talk about what we're doing too much because I don't want to get people excited before we deliver the goods. So what the community's been asking me the last 6 months or so is, can you put that list and your vision out there in more places so we can make a decision if we'd like to help? So you'll start to see it more, but at this point I haven't figured out where yet. As soon as I do, obviously I'll let people know, and they'll find that on the website.
Great. Because this is thrilling.
It is exciting.
Gosh, and one of the things I've always loved about the fairgrounds is that it's been there a while.
It has.
And it's familiar to me and homey, very homey, and it draws people.
It does.
It's just a wonderful place, and it's being spruced up,
It is.
and it's still the same place. That's wonderful.
Yeah. The vision was to keep it, we don't want to go past our traditions. And we have a lot of traditions. And we also have a lot of people in our community that love it for the reasons you just outlined. So as we move forward, what's been the challenge is how do we take a facility that was first created in 1889 and bring it to the future without making it too modern and leave the people who've made it what it is, and we don't want to do that. So our vision has always been, our strategic plan has always been to try to keep a agricultural look, and that's why the reds and the greens and the metal roofs and the facade to bring out in wood. So there's a lot of wood being used. When we redid the stage in 2017, we put wood up on what was all concrete to get rid of that sanitized look and make it more warm, create an ambiance. And to make it even special, we learned from a process in Japan, and if you ever look at the new stage, we burned all the individual pieces of wood, and what it does is it takes away the fire risk. So when the fire marshal came out and said, these are going to have to come down, and I said, no, these were done by the Japanese approach. And then they had to look it up, and what was really funny is they called me back a month later and said, you're absolutely right, that was a brilliant idea. But because we were trying to keep safety first, we have a lot of families that come, so we want to make sure that when you come to our fairgrounds, you don't have to worry about things happening. And so fires, obviously, which is a risk to everybody, that was important to us, but we also wanted that look. So it kind of looks like barnwood, but it's just pine that I burned, and I bought different sizes to make it look like barnwood. So, but it's it's a way to protect that agricultural tradition.
And when you say the stage, that's the outdoors.
Yes, the main stage in the middle of the fairgrounds, which used to be called the Gold Country Stage, which when we first started, Barefoot Wine and Bubbly took naming rights on that, and that was another way we were able to create some revenue.
Okay.
So their name is on that stage.
Right. Good. So you were volunteering? No, you were being paid. And your job was?
I was the executive director of the Gold Country Fair Heritage Foundation, and I was getting paid a small stipend to help make that happen, and I was only pleased to do it because I was excited about that.
That organization, I haven't written it down.
So in 2013, when I was in Leadership Auburn, we did the front side of the fairgrounds. We raised $120,000 and made that front entrance really pretty because we said, if the front door looks bad, who's going to enter the home? So that was my thinking back then. And then I got to know certain people, so I applied for to be on the board. And about a year later, I ended up on the fair board. And when I was on the fair board, we decided to launch a nonprofit. And I said I could do that. And they said, well, you have to leave the board to do that. So I did. I left the board. And then 18 months later, we had a nonprofit.
Yes.
And that's how I got really involved in the fairgrounds, the politics of it, the community, the organizations, because all of those people had to be brought together to understand what we were doing in terms of this foundation. Because prior to the foundation, we used to have a group called the Auburn Fair Boosters, if you remember that.
Yes.
But they weren't really a 501c3, they were more a social club.
Oh, okay.
And we needed a 501c3. So when they chose to disband, about a year later, we started this project.
Fairgrounds needed some support.
We needed some support, right.
Yeah. Some nonprofit,
Correct.
nonprofit organizations support.
Right.
Which is different from this name. Tell me again the name of this organization.
So the nonprofit is called the Gold Country Fair Heritage Foundation.
Heritage Foundation. Okay.
And for short, we always say Heritage Foundation.
Okay. And this is for that particular entity, for this, that's what you're gathering together for. And other organizations are gathered together for other things, then they may or may not contribute
Correct.
to the fairgrounds.
Right.
But this organization,
specific.
that's what it's created for.
Right. Its mission statement is simply to enhance the Gold Country Fairgrounds.
Okay.
And what we mean by that is education, our 4-H, our FFA, our independent, youth groups, basically anything that will improve the fairgrounds either financially, aesthetically, education, which I've already said, or in any way better the community.
Yeah.
That's why we made it a little more broad, because we don't want people to think it's just about fixing buildings, although that's very important. It's about making sure we're looking at the whole community and all its needs.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the beauty of the foundation. And because it's by itself, it's a standalone, those monies that are raised in behalf of the fairgrounds come back to the fairgrounds.
Right. Okay. And so people can find out more about the Heritage Foundation on the website goldcountryfair.com, and there's various places you can look, and the Heritage Foundation is there.
Correct. You can also go to the Gold Country Fair heritagefoundation.com and reach them directly.
Okay.
And we also have it on our website, goldcountryfair.com.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. How does one prepare in general to be a CEO?
That's another good question. For me, it was more, I think at the point in my life, I was ready for a new challenge. I also spent a lot of time in the community, and I started to get to know a lot of different people. So that's obviously part of the preparation.
Mm-hmm.
You also have to have a business background, and I say that because the financial side of the fairgrounds is very daunting.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know how to raise money and account for money, you're doomed to failure because it's just not going to work for you.
Mm-hmm.
You're also a state entity, but you're your own enterprise. And what that means is the state gives you, as I said earlier, only about $42,000, and you have to provide the rest, which means you have to become your own little business entity, which goes back to having the accounting background, knowing the community, because not everything can be paid for. Some things have to be bargained for, some things have to be donated, so you have to have the ability to do that. You also have to understand the fact that you're going to fail most of the time, so you have to deal with failure, and it's hard for people. See, I look at failure as information.
Look at him. He has to be prepared for failure, which means that a lot of people people can't say yes if you don't ask, but if you ask, they also feel free to say no.
Correct.
And so lots of people say no.
They do. And
Lots of people say yes.
That 92% say no. I've gotten it down to a metric. I do a lot of metrics. And that's okay because my adage is that if you say no, I'm just that much closer to the yes. And I just take it as information. Maybe it was my presentation. Maybe it's not your passion. Maybe there's a lot of different reasons why people give and don't give. And I never take it personally because it's not about me. It's about the fairgrounds. And as long as you think like that, you protect that. But where it does become a more challenging is sometimes I hate to walk into a room because I'm wondering if they think, is he here to see me? Is he here to ask for money? So there is always that little side of it. And then the other thing about it that's been difficult for me is coming from a private sector, dealing with the regulations of the state. So simple things like wanting to hire someone is a long process because although I'm my own HR, all of it has to go through Cal HR, which is state, and it can take me 6 months to hire someone when I need them in 2 weeks. So I've had to learn and adjust to that. So what you do now, at least what I do, because I'm in my 5th year, is I look at my needs the year before, and you got to plan them out a year ahead so that when you're ready to hire, you've already got your candidates approved, and it's just a question of finding the best candidate. But that's easier said than done because I had no idea that's how it was, and it takes a lot.
And the time it takes to find somebody, that person can't wait a year either.
No, they cannot. And then the other thing about the CEO thing that I didn't anticipate that people need to understand is you can't have an ego. You got to check it at the door because sometimes you got to get out there and clean the restrooms, and sometimes you got to mow the lawn, and sometimes you got to order supplies, and sometimes you got to work long hours to make sure.
Put the supplies away.
And put the supply, right. So it's, and you don't train for that, you just do it. Because if you don't do it, it's not going to get done.
Right.
So.
I remember before I became a manager, there were times when I couldn't find my manager. What does he do? And then when I became a manager, I learned that a manager does everything.
They do.
No matter what.
Well, it's true. And then I'm also the voice for the fair. So that means I'm doing interviews. I'm also doing press articles. I mean, basically, I'm writing everything to keep in one voice with what the board's policies are to make sure the public understands what our vision is, but also what we're doing. And we want to be transparent and make sure everybody understands what we're doing. So there's a lot of the behind the scenes things you're doing and keeping up with the regulations, which is always fun. But they're always sending you a report about things and you got to fill those reports out. So it becomes an all-encompassing job, but I tell you, I love it. And I always tell people I would do it for free, but I don't say it too loud. But
one would never know
I do enjoy it. I love it. So it's for me. I'll always be at the fairgrounds in some capacity as long as they'll have me. So.
Well, great, great. So there are these things that are popping up around new things popping up on the fairgrounds, including the Reese Browning's Old and Company. The Browning families, Old Town Pizza. What is it? It's outdoors.
It is outdoors. Well, during the COVID concerns, we were trying to figure out how do we stay relevant, and one of the ways to stay relevant was to have an outdoor eatery, and of course, Reese Browning and the Browning family said, well, we would like to be part of that. And so we started talking and drawings started showing up. And before you know it, he took the leap of faith and said, I'm going to put in a 3,000 square foot outdoor eatery. But it's not just an outdoor eatery. We redid a kitchen. We have pizza ovens there. We put heaters above, fans to cool. I mean, it's a gorgeous venue and it's outside. Yes. And it's in the middle of our fairgrounds, so it's got some hills and some bumps and some bruises along the way. But it's a beautiful venue, and what we've decided to do is, since he's there, now we're reaching out to other businesses. So the long-term vision is to have multiple restaurants, maybe not as large as the OTP Pavilion, but other things. So we might have, like, we've talked to Auburn Ale House, we've talked to the Tap House, we've talked to Vino Castellano. These are people in our community that have wine, maybe beer, sandwiches. We've talked to coffee shops. So I'm trying to find a way to create marketplace within the fairgrounds so that it's a destination Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
Because those are the days that we tend to not do a lot, but we're always busy on the weekend.
Right.
And then what would be nice is our bigger events, we'd have a built-in restaurant row, for lack of a better word, and that would give people a chance to have, I think, a higher quality experience when they're at an event.
Yeah.
So not there's anything wrong with corn dogs or, you know,
True.
but it would be nice to have something that is more permanent.
And local.
And local.
Yeah.
So that's the other side of it, is I'm trying to give back to the community that's been suffering, and we benefit too. So it's a win-win relationship, and it's also created some challenges for both of us because we now have a facility that's open 7 days a week, and I don't have a lot of staff for that. It also means we open up our fairgrounds all hours, which can create its own challenges because people sometimes come in with bad intent. They may not have meant that, but they do come in with that. So that's the other thing, is now security is becoming a little more of an issue. And then of course it also puts more wear and tear on our fairgrounds, so our maintenance needs go up a little bit.
Yeah.
But at the end of
At
it
the
all,
same time,
it's worth it. Yeah,
it's-
it's the best thing we've
People
ever
are
done.
coming.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a win, and this was part of our vision from the beginning. At least when I started, I wanted to create, you know, I love Disney. We'll never be Disney. That doesn't mean we can't be like
Good.
Disney. So,
I
but, you know,
want
the
you- us
cleanliness.
to be Auburn.
Yes, but you know what I mean, the cleanliness,
Oh, sure.
the
Okay.
nice facilities, that's all I mean by that. If you come to the fairgrounds, these are things people don't notice, but I notice. We've got our trash cans every 12 feet now, and it's cut down on our garbage by 20%.
Well, good.
Because people now,
Good.
and it's things like that we're looking at, you know, how do we create less flies? How do we create, you know, less mosquitoes when the mosquito, you know, we're working very hard on how do we create pockets where you can just stop, sit, and think, reflect. So we've got 3 waterfalls going now. We used to only have 1. We've got 2 more that have been dug and ready to go. So we'll have areas where you can sit, different types of
And
walk-
meditate,
Yeah,
sort of.
meditate, so to
Yeah,
speak. And then also we brought in, for families that want to nurse, we've got nursing trailers at
Yeah.
fair. And so we're trying to bring in a family feel and a comfort
Absolutely.
level. And all of that can be done surprisingly reasonably. But we have to think it through. And that's the
and
fun of
somebody
it.
has to
Right.
has to bring it up.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's why when I told people, please reach out at my phone number, 530-330-4312. I encourage you, if you have ideas, things we could do better, please, I have an open door policy.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's where we're going with our vision, and we're going to do that in every single building.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. I'm
That's
excited.
oh my.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And see, that's the message I've got to get out there more, because I would doubt that everybody even knows that we're planning all these things.
Right.
And that's on me as the CEO. I got to make sure people know that.
Yeah, and well, my guest is Don Ales, CEO of Gold Country Fairgrounds. Don has been a fabulous half minute talking with you. Again, if you want to approach him, his email is ceo@goldcountryfair.com, and his, as he said, his cell phone is 530-330-4312. The fairgrounds are is on 1273 High Street, but you can't miss it. And their phone number is 530-823-4533. Don, it's been a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you for
talking
having
with
me.
me. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you again.